The Canada goose Branta canadensis is a large species of goose with a black head and neck, white cheeks, white under its chin, and a brown body. It is native to the Arctic and temperate regions of North America, and it is occasionally found during migration across the Atlantic in Northern Europe. It has been introduced to France, the United Kingdom, Ireland, Finland, Sweden, Denmark, New Zealand, Japan, Chile, Argentina, and the Falkland Islands. Like most geese, the Canada goose is primarily herbivorous and normally migratory. Often found on or close to fresh water, the Canada goose is also common in brackish marshes, estuaries, and lagoons. Extremely adept at living in human-altered areas, Canada geese have established breeding colonies in urban and cultivated habitats, which provide food and few natural predators. The success of this common park species has led to it often being considered a pest species because of its excrement, its depredation of crops, its noise, its aggressive territorial behavior toward both humans and other animals, and its habit of stalking and begging for food, the latter a result of humans disobeying artificial feeding policies toward wild animals. Nomenclature and taxonomy. The Canada goose was one of the many species described by Carl Linnaeus in his 18th century work Systema Naturae. 3. It belongs to the Branta genus of geese, which contains species with largely distinguishing them from the gray species of the genus Ongsa. Branta was a Latinized form of Old Norse brandgas, burnt black goose, and the specific epithet canadensis is a Neo-Latin word meaning from Canada. 4. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, the first citation for the Canada goose dates back to 1772, 567. The Canada goose is also colloquially referred to as the Canadian goose. 8. This name may annoy some birders. 9. The cackling goose was originally considered to be the same species or several subspecies of the Canada goose, but in July 2004, the American Ornithologists Union's Committee on Classification and Nomenclature split them into two species, making the cackling goose into a full species with the scientific name Branta hutchinsi. The description: profile view of a Canada goose head. Profile view of the head, leucistic Canada goose, vocalizations. Duration 38 seconds, 0:38, a flock calling when feeding. Duration 30 seconds, 0:30, low flyover by 5 Canada geese. Duration for seconds, 0:04, calling. The black head and neck with a white chin strap distinguish the Canada goose from all other goose species except the cackling goose and barnacle goose. The latter, however, has a black breast and gray rather than brownish body plumage. 14. Some Canada geese come with a pepper-spotted or brown neck with brown plumage, and these are assumed to be a leucistic variety. 15. The 7 subspecies of this bird vary widely in size and plumage details, but all are recognizable as Canada geese. Some of the smaller races can be hard to distinguish from the cackling goose, which slightly overlap in mass. However, most subspecies of the cackling goose exclusive of Richardson's cackling goose, B.H. hutchinsi, are considerably smaller. The smallest cackling goose, B.H. minima, is scarcely larger than a mallard. In addition to the size difference, cackling geese also have a shorter neck and smaller bill, which can be useful when small Canada geese commingle with relatively large cackling geese. Of the true geese, i.e., the genera Ongsa and Branta, the Canada goose is on average the largest living species, although some other species that are geese in name, if not of close relation to these genera, are on average heavier, such as the spur-winged goose and Cape Barren goose. Canada geese range from 75 to 110 centimeters, 30 to 43 in length, and have a 127 to 185 centimeters, 50 to 73 in wingspan, 16 among standard measurements. The wing chord can range from 39 to 55 centimeters, 15 plus 1 2 to 21 plus 1 2 in. The tarsus can range from 6.9 to 10.6 centimeters, to plus 1116 to for plus 360. Subspecies is BC maxima, or the giant Canada goose, and the smallest with the separation of the cackling goose group is BC parvops, or the lesser Canada goose, 17, an exceptionally large male of race BC maxima, which rarely exceed 8 kilograms 18 pounds, weighed 10.9 kilograms 24 pounds, and had a wingspan of 2.24 meters 7 feet 4 in. This specimen is the largest wild goose ever recorded of any species. 18. The male Canada goose usually weighs 2.6 to 6.5 kilograms 5 plus 3 to 1,414 pounds, averaging amongst all subspecies 3.9 kilograms. The female looks virtually identical, but is slightly lighter at 2.4 to 5.5 kilograms 5.1 to plus 14 pounds, averaging amongst all subspecies 3.6 kilograms 8 pounds, and generally 10% smaller in linear dimensions than the male counterparts. 19. The honk refers to the call of the male Canada goose, while the ring call refers to the female goose. 20. Outside North America. Canada goose in flight at Blenheim Palace, Oxfordshire, Eurasia. Approaching to beg for food in a Manchester park, a learned behavior. Canada geese have reached northern Europe naturally, as has been proved by ringing recoveries. The birds include those of the subspecies BC, parvips, and possibly others. These geese are also found naturally on the Kamchatka Peninsula in eastern Siberia and eastern China. Citation needed. Canada geese have also been introduced in Europe in the early 17th century by explorer Samuel de Champlain, who sent several pairs of geese to France as a present for King Louis XIII. The geese were first introduced in Great Britain in the late 17th century as an addition to King James II's waterfowl collection in St. James's Park. By the middle of the 18th century, the Canada geese have established populations in France and Great Britain, but also in Ireland. They were also introduced in the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, Scandinavia, and Finland in the 20th century, starting in Sweden in 1929. Most European populations are not migratory, but those in more northerly parts of Sweden and Finland migrate to the North Sea and Baltic coasts. 31. Semi-tame feral birds are common in parks and have become a pest in some areas. In Great Britain, they were spread by hunters, but remained uncommon until the mid-20th century. Their population grew from 2,200 to 4,000 birds in 1953 to an estimated 82,000 in 1999, as changing agricultural practices and urban growth provided new habitat, with an estimated 165,000 wintering individuals in 2017. 32. An attempt to translocate breeding pairs away from agricultural zones in the 50s and 60s backfired, causing establishment of new subpopulations and an overall population explosion. 33 European birds are mostly descended from the nominate subspecies BC canadensis, likely with some contributions from the subspecies BC maxima. 34. New Zealand. In New Zealand, main article, Canada goose in New Zealand. Canada geese were introduced as a game bird into New Zealand in 1905. They have become a problem in some areas by fouling pastures and damaging crops. They were protected under the Wildlife Act 1953, and the population was managed by Fish and Game New Zealand, which culled excessive bird numbers. In 2011, the government removed the protection status, allowing anyone to kill the birds. 35. Behavior. Bathing, Oxfordshire, England. Fighting, eating a flower at Downsview Park. Male Canada goose carefully watches nearby humans in Winnipeg. Like most geese, the Canada goose is naturally migratory, with the wintering range being most of the United States. The calls overhead from large groups of Canada geese flying in a V-shaped formation signal the transitions into spring and autumn. In some areas, migration routes have changed due to changes in habitat and food sources. In mild climates from southwestern British Columbia to California to the Great Lakes, some of the population has become non-migratory due to adequate winter food supply and a lack of former predators. Citation needed. 36. Males exhibit agonistic behavior both on and off breeding and nesting grounds. Vented case involved a male defending his nest from a brant that wandered into the area. The following attack lasted for 1 hour until the death of the brant. The cause of death was suffocation or drowning in mud as a direct result of the Canada gooses packing the head of the brand into the mud. Researchers attributed it to high hormone levels and the brand's inability to leave the nesting area. 37. Diet. Canada geese are primarily herbivores. 23. Although they sometimes eat small insects and fish. 38. Their diet includes green vegetation and grains. The Canada goose eats a variety of grasses when on land. It feeds by grasping a blade of grass with the bill, then tearing it with a jerk of the head. The Canada goose also eats beans and grains such as wheat, rice, and corn when they are available. In the water, it feeds from aquatic plants by sliding its bill at the bottom of the body of water. It also feeds on aquatic plant like algae, such as seaweed. 18. In urban areas, it is also known to pick food out of garbage bins. They are also sometimes hand-fed a variety of grains and other foods by humans in parks. Canada geese prefer lawn grass in urban areas. They usually graze in open areas with wide clearance to avoid potential predators. 39. Reproduction. During the second year of their lives, Canada geese find a mate. They are monogamous, and most couples stay together all of their lives. If one dies, the other may find a new mate. The female lays from 2 to 9 eggs, with an average of 5, and both parents protect the nest while the eggs incubate, but the female spends more time at the nest than the male. 18. Its nest is usually located in an elevated area near water, such as streams, lakes, ponds, and sometimes on a beaver lodge. Its eggs are laid in a shallow depression lined with plant material and down. The incubation period, in which the female incubates while the male remains nearby, lasts for 24 to 32 days after laying. Canada geese can respond to external climatic factors by adjusting their laying date to spring maximum temperatures, which may benefit their nesting success. 40. As the annual summer molt also takes place during the breeding season, the adults lose their flight feathers for 20 to 40 days, regaining flight about the same time as their goslings start to fly. 41. As soon as the goslings hatch, they are immediately capable of walking, swimming, and finding their own food, a diet similar to that of adult geese. Parents are often seen leading their goslings in a line, usually with one adult at the front and the other at the back. While protecting their goslings, parents often violently chase away nearby creatures, from small blackbirds to lone humans who approach, first giving a warning hiss, and then attacking with bites and slaps of the wings. Although parents are hostile to unfamiliar geese, they may form groups of a number of goslings and a few adults, called crochets. The offspring enter the fledgling stage any time from 6 to 9 weeks of age. They do not leave their parents until after the spring migration, when they return to their birthplace. 23. Migration. Resting in a pond during spring migration. Ottawa, Ontario. A Canada goose in Dangerfield State Park in Austin County, Texas, United States. Canada geese are known for their seasonal migrations. Most Canada geese have staging or resting areas where they join up with others. Their autumn migration can be seen from September to the beginning of November. Citation needed 42. The early migrants have a tendency to spend less time at rest stops and go through the migration much faster. The later birds usually spend more time at rest stops. Some geese return to the same nesting ground year after year and lay eggs with their mate, raising them in the same way each year. This is recorded from the many tagged geese which frequent the East Coast. Canada geese fly in a distinctive V-shaped flight formation, with an altitude of 1 kilometer 3,000 feet for migration flight. The maximum flight ceiling of Canada geese is unknown, but they have been reported at 9 kilometers 29,000 feet. 43. Flying in the V formation has been the subject of study by researchers. The front position is rotated since flying in front consumes the most energy. Canada geese leave the winter grounds more quickly than the summer grounds. Elevated thyroid hormones, such as T3 and T4, have been measured in geese just after a big migration. This is believed because of the long days of flying in migration. The thyroid gland sends out more T4, which help the body cope with the longer journey. The increased T4 levels are also associated with increased muscle mass hypertrophy of the breast muscle, also because of the longer time spent flying. It is believed that the body sends out more T4 to help the goose's body with this long task by speeding up the metabolism and lowering the temperature at which the muscles work. 44 also, other studies show levels of stress hormones such as corticosterone rise dramatically in these birds during and after a migration. 45. Survival. The lifespan in the wild of geese who survive to adulthood ranges from 10 to 20 for the British longevity record is held by a specimen tagged as a nestling, which was observed alive at the University of York at the age of 31. 46-47. In order to survive the extreme winter temperatures, the geese prefer to stay in urban areas rather than in green spaces since industrial areas retain heat. 48. Predators. Canada geese instinctively nest on higher ground near water. This female is nesting on a beaver lodge. Known predators of eggs and goslings include coyotes Canis latrans. 49. Arctic foxes Vulpes lagopus, northern raccoons Procyon loter, red foxes vulpes, large gulls Larus species, common ravens Corvus corax, American crows Corvus brachyrhynchos, carrion crows in Europe, Corvus corone and both brown Ursus arctos and American black bears Ursus americanus. 23 50 150 to 53 geese and their goslings are occasionally preyed upon by domestic dogs. These occurrences can be prevented by leashing a pet dog. 54. Once they reach adulthood, due to their large size and often aggressive behavior, Canada geese are rarely preyed on, although prior injury may make them more vulnerable to natural predators. 55. Beyond humans, adults can be taken by coyotes. 56 and gray wolves Canis lupus. 57 avian predators that are known to kill adults, as well as young geese, include snowy owls Buboscandiacus, golden eagles Aquila crucitos and bald eagles Haliaeetus leucocephalus and, though rarely on large adult geese, great horned owls Bubo virginianus, northern goshawks Accipiter gentilis. 58-59 peregrine falcons Falco peregrinus, and gyrfalcons Falco rusticolus. 23-52. Adult geese are quite vigorous at displacing potential predators from the nest site, with predator prevention usually falling to the larger male of the pair. 60-61-62. Males usually attempt to draw attention of approaching predators and toll mob terrestrial predators without physical contact, often in accompaniment with males of other goose species. Eagles frequently cause geese to fly off en masse from some distance, though in other instances, geese may seem unconcerned nearby, seemingly only reacting if the eagle is displaying active hunting behavior. 63 Canada geese are quite wary of humans where they are regularly hunted and killed, but can otherwise become habituated to fearlessness toward humans, especially where they are fed by them. 64. This often leads to the geese becoming overly aggressive toward humans, and large groups of the birds may be considered a nuisance if they are causing persistent problems to humans and other animals in the surrounding area. Citation NE. Relationship with humans. Nesting in a parking lot. The Canada goose is considered part of the Canadian national identity. 67. In North America, non-migratory Canada goose populations have been on the rise. The species is frequently found on golf courses, parking lots, and urban parks, which would have previously hosted only migratory geese on rare occasions. Owing to its adaptability to human-altered areas, it has become one of the most common waterfowl species in North America. In many areas, non-migratory Canada geese are now regarded as pests by humans. They are suspected of being a cause of an increase in high fecal coliforms at beaches. 68 and extended hunting season, deploying noisemakers, and hazing by dogs have been used in an attempt to destroy. 69 A goal of conservationists has been to focus hunting on the non-migratory populations, which tend to be larger and more of a nuisance as opposed to migratory flocks showing natural behavior, which may be rarer. Since 1999, The United States Department of Agriculture Wildlife Services Agency has been engaged in lethal culls of Canada geese primarily in urban or densely populated areas. The agency responds to municipalities or private land owners, such as golf courses, which find the geese obtrusive or object to their waste. 70 addling goose eggs and destroying nests are promoted as humane population control methods. 71 flocks of Canada geese can also be captured during molt, and this method of culling is used to control invasive populations. 72. Canada geese are protected from hunting and capture outside of designated hunting seasons in the United States by the Migratory Bird Treaty Act 73 and in Canada under the Migratory Birds Convention Act. In both countries, commercial transactions such as buying or trading are mostly prohibited, and the possession, hunting, and interfering with the activity of the animals are subject to restrictions. 75-76. In the UK, as with native bird species, the nests and eggs of Canada geese are fully protected by law, except when their removal has been specifically licensed, and shooting is generally permitted only during the defined open season. 77, 78, 79 geese have a tendency to attack humans when they feel themselves or their goslings to be threatened. First, the geese stand erect, spread their wings, and produce a hissing sound. Next, the geese charge. They may then peck or attack with their wings. 80. Most other bees, including familiar insects such as carpenter bees, leafcutter bees, and mason bees, are solitary in the sense that every female is fertile and typically inhabits a nest she constructs herself. There is no division of labor, so these nests lack queens and worker bees for these species. Solitary bees typically produce neither honey nor beeswax. Bees collect pollen to feed their young and have the necessary adaptations to do this. However, certain wasp species, such as pollen wasps, have similar behaviors, and a few species of bees scavenge from carcasses to feed their offspring. 30 solitary bees are important pollinators. They gather pollen to provision their nests with food for their brood. Often it is mixed with nectar to form a paste-like consistency. Some solitary bees have advanced types of pollen-carrying structures on their bodies. Very few species of solitary bee are being cultured for commercial pollination. Most of these species belong to a distinct set of genera, which are commonly known by their nesting behavior or preferences, namely carpenter bees, sweat bees, mason bees, plasterer bees, squash bees, dwarf carpenter bees, leafcutter bees, alkali bees, and digger bees. 49. A solitary bee, Anthidium florentinum family, Megachelidae, visiting Lantana. Most solitary bees are fossorial, digging nests in the ground in a variety of soil textures and conditions, while others create nests in hollow reeds or twigs. The female typically creates a compartment, a cell, with an egg and some provisions for the resulting larva, then seals it off. A nest may consist of numerous cells. When the nest is in wood, usually the last those closer to the entrance contain eggs that will become males. The adult does not provide care for the brood once the egg is laid, and usually dies after making one or more nests. The males typically emerge first and are ready for mating when the females emerge. Solitary bees are very unlikely to sting only in self-defense, if ever, and some sp. in the family and Renidae are stingless. 50-51. The mason bee Osmia cornifrons nests in a hole in dead wood. Bee hotels are often sold for this purpose. While solitary, females each make individual nests. 52. Some species, such as the European mason bee Hoplites anthocopoids, 53, and the Dawson's burrowing bee, Amagilla dawsoni, 54, are gregarious, preferring to make nests near others of the same species and giving the appearance of being social. Large groups of solitary bee nests are called aggregations, to distinguish them from colonies. In some species, multiple females share a common nest, but each makes and provisions her own cells independently. This type of group is called communal and is not uncommon. The primary advantage appears to be that a nest entrance is easier to defend from predators and parasites when multiple females use that same entrance regularly. 53.